Hello everyone. This story is about, what if Naruto was adopted by Guy and fell for Kurenai? Please like, share and subscribe. Now let's start. So, gakis and underage boy toys alike, listen up. The goal of the second exam will be to gain one heaven scroll and one earth scroll. Each time we'll start with one of the scrolls, so at maximum, only half of you can pass. Before you go, get your scrolls, sign these waivers so your families don't sue us when you die. That would result in a pay cut, and no way am I going to take one. All the genin sweat drops save Naruto, who was too busy denying being a boy toy of any type, especially an underaged one. After all, contrary to what most thought, being a genin didn't make one an adult in terms of consent. And to be involved with your own jounin sensei was an uneven power relationship that would be considered statutory rape until one became a chunin and was no longer bound to the same squad. He didn't want Kurenai to have people treat her like she did that. Naruto-kun, you and sensei don't have anything going on, right? I mean, it does seem strange that you used to always go to her house after training and that she would pull a favor with ANBU to get you personal training from a kenjutsu master. But that's severely frowned upon, if not illegal since you are emancipated. Naruto shook his head rapidly at Hinata's question. He liked Kurenai, but he knew that nothing could come of that until he was at least a chunin, and more likely until he got older. Hinata, Naruto wouldn't hide something like that. Why? Because he is our friend. He would have told us if he engaging in a relationship. Naruto hoped that the proctor would leave him alone when the flyers were passed out. After all, Guy wouldn't sue the village if Naruto died. He might declare a one-man war on the country responsible, but he wouldn't sue. As long as he avoided the creepy brothers and their attractive, but possibly PMSing sister anyway. Alas, Naruto's hope was in vain as he saw pineapple-shaped purple hair coming for him. So, how did you get Kurenai to fall for you? I mean, your hair looks like solidified sunshine, but that can't be all. Did you turn on the puppy dog eyes, big deep blue, with little tears in the corners? You know that the Sandame is using his crystal ball so that the Jounin can see and hear us, so there is no point in lying. Why do all of Kurenai's friends say she likes me? Can't anyone else have been the proctor for this? Kurenai was being cornered by the rest of her fellow Jounin and questioned on Anko's words. Kakashi, Guy, and the Sandame were particularly interested in what was going on. Asuma was just laughing. In his mind, Kurenai was obviously the victim of a practical joke since she even refused him. No way would she go for some little kid. Well, Yugi-san? Is there any truth to what Anko is saying? Guy and cold intimidation did not go together, and anyone that knew could tell you that. The disconnect between his usual personality and how he was acting now made it all the more daunting than most. Yeah, Kurenai, has there been another reason for all of Naruto's visits to your home? Kakashi might not be the boy's adoptive father. But he did feel as though he were a big brother or younger than average uncle. He had increased the effect of his glare by adding the Sharingan. Kurenai looked between the two at the silent Hokage, breathless from his killing intent. She struggled to speak and eventually managed enough to get a few words out between pants. No. Anko. Teasing me. The intent diminished, and the Hokage spoke up before the others could begin threatening her again. If that is so, where did the idea to tease you in this manner come from? One could say she just wants to tease you and Naruto at the same time, but the formulation of ideas like this aren't just a whim. Now that she could breathe again, Kurenai gave the truth with far more ease. I used to go out once a week and drink with Anko and Yugao. I had a bit more than usual and referred to Naruto as Naruto-kun, a habit I picked up when talking to him in private. The two grilled me about Naruto, and I listed cute as one of his many positive features. The next day Anko used the hench to transform into a shirtless version of Naruto when I woke up and mimicked his voice and thanked me for last night. I had never been so embarrassed, and thanks to that, this has become her favorite teasing method. Guy was still unhappy that his son's sensei hid that she used an affectionate honorific with him, and even more so that she would do something like talk about Naruto while she was drunk. But there was no evidence that she was being untruthful as well as unyouthful, so he would let it slide for now. If it helps, that is also the reason I stopped drinking altogether, rather than only drinking once a week on my day off with my two best friends. The Hokage nodded. Having heard about her quitting from Yugao. Alright, but just because Naruto is going to be a chunin after this test, don't think you can have him then. Everyone looked shocked at Guy's mixed admission of belief and threat. Guy saw all the looks and spoke again. Alcohol doesn't rapidly change one's view of affection and attraction, it lowers inhibitions. People don't suddenly find ugly people attractive, they just lower the standard of what is acceptable. If Kurenai speaks to Naruto affectionately and talks to others about him that way, that is a sign of how she views him. If she admits to his attractiveness when she is drunk, she finds him so already and is just afraid of admitting it. Guy's newest flash of insight was so profound that he would most likely forget having said it tomorrow during training to re-youthify himself. Come on, you mean that you didn't know she likes you? I thought for sure that Nico would have told you. Naruto was at a loss, he was certain that she was just teasing both himself and, if she was telling the truth about the Sandaime, Kurenai too. She did, but I didn't believe her either. Why would someone like Kurenai like me? Aside from the age difference, which for the sake of argument doesn't matter, she could have anyone in the village that is attracted to women. Heck, she could probably change a few minds that aren't attracted to women. Oh damn, I just let out that I think she's the best woman in the village. Hopefully the vampire won't notice. Anyone? So you're saying that little not old me would have to settle for second best if she wanted the same one I did? Or that she could convince me I'd rather bed her than a man? What about Hana or Nico? Most men would literally kill just for one night with any of us, and you think Kurenai that much better? Anko's smirk was going full blast, and it made Naruto even more uncomfortable. With Nico, he couldn't see her face and was content that when she teased, there was a friendly smile. Anko had a devilish smirk and he had seen her lick a person's blood, which all in all meant that she freaked him out. Ding, out of time sunshine. Sign your waiver and we'll continue after you make it out of the forest. She turned and left a badly blushing Naruto with his two teammates. Hinata wore a similar blush at the thought of Kurenai sensei and this crazy, but super attractive proctor together. Thoughts of Haku frowning at her disappointed was enough to clear her head, but Naruto had no such luck. Shino has all of 3 facial expressions, and facial expression mild surprise was his current look. After getting an earth scroll from the 2 Chunin running the stand, Team 8 stood at one of the gates that surrounded the Forest of Death. Team, I believe I have a strategy to pass the exam quickly. Why? Because my father has told me about the giant tree leeches that live in this forest. Should we sit in the area they are found, I can keep them from attacking us and instead they will target any groups near us, leaving an easy win for the scroll. Naruto and Hinata. Despite being uncomfortable with the idea of sitting around by a bunch of giant tree leeches, agreed that this was a solid plan. Ready Gakis? 3, 2, 1. Whatever. And with this ecstatic call, the second exam begun. Shino led them to the area with the leeches, while Hinata kept a lookout for any enemies following them with her Byakugan. Naruto was the one with the scroll, since he was best able to slip out of danger with his Kagebunshin. One sign, a convenient smokescreen, and then there were 1,000 Narutos, all taking up the stance that Guy had patented when he found out his father hadn't. It didn't take long for a group to find them, one of the 2 teams from AIM that was still in the exam. They sat around and talked loudly of what they would do when they made Chunin, lulling the enemies into a false sense of security before the leeches. Alright, let's jump them on 3. Ready? 1. The leader of the AIM team didn't get any further before his own team was jumped, leeches falling down from the branches above them. Shino was the one to speak to the group before they passed out, Naruto and Hinata unwilling to get close to the leeches. Kakacha they were used to, leeches were some of the creepiest things on the planet. Actually, everything that drank blood ranked as one of the creepiest things on the planet to Naruto, including the proctor for this exam. Don't worry, these leeches never kill anything they drink from. When you pass out, they will go back in the trees. When the last of the genin went limp, Shino walked right through the leeches and searched them for their scroll. With the incredible luck they had so far, it almost didn't surprise them that it was a heaven scroll they found. Alright, you keep that one Shino. Let's hightail it to that tower in the middle and pass the exam. Maybe we'll even set the record, Databeo. While Team 8 laughed at Naruto's failure to keep his excitement hidden, Team 7 were having a bad day. At first, the only problem was whether Sasuke or Kiba would lead, but Sakura being on Sasuke's side ended that argument early. No, after that some Ainin had impersonated Kiba when nature called, which thanks to poor observation skills that living in a country where seeing is impossible had let fester. Had also been fixed easily. The real problem was the freaky Kusa Kunoichi that had sent Kiba flying with a futon jutsu. Kukukuku, hello Sasuke-kun. Just to see if you are smart enough to avoid unpleasantness, won't you give me your body? It will make things far easier and more enjoyable. Sasuke stared in shock at the pedophile woman before him, barely managing to keep back his vomit. Sakura, however, was a teensy bit more absolutely livid than she was disgusted. Most women wanted Sasuke, no matter their age, so she was used to seeing that. Sasuke-kun's virginity is mine, you freaky whore. Shinaro. Feel my wrath. Orochimaru nearly giggled. Stupid female bodies he stole, and their stupid hormones. If it weren't for the fact there was that woman with Shoten, he would never take a female body again. He should have used the technique on the Kazekage now that he thought about it. Using gold dust as a weapon was kind of dumb, but he would have enough money to continue his experiments for years if he had just gathered loose dust in the desert. Why hadn't the man just done that to increase his village's revenue? It would have been easy. A small, nearly unidentifiable pulse of chakra alerted him to a genjutsu, which he shrugged off instantly. Seriously, did this little girl think she could use a genjutsu on a sannin? He stood still and took the punch she threw as though under the effects of the genjutsu, and was surprised that she hit as hard as she did. Probably unconsciously channeled chakra through her fists when angry. He let his body be tossed back, before standing up with a grin. How about you stand still now? Instantly, Sasuke and Sakura found themselves paralyzed, envisioning their own deaths repeatedly at the hands of this woman. That smile and those snake-like yellow slit eyes haunting every vision. While Sasuke and Sakura were facing the ninja, Kiba was facing a giant freaking snake. Where in hell did this beast come from, for surely it was not from this earth. Kiba was desperately dodging attempts from the snake to eat him, weaving from side to side and rolling with less than a second to spare. He managed to give Akamaru a food pill from his pocket while the snake spat out a large moss-covered rock it had nearly swallowed. And there were two Kibas when the snake locked its gaze back on target. Now Akamaru, Getsuga. Two gray whirlwinds tore through the scales of the massive serpent. A small amount of blood came from the creature before it exploded into smoke. A summon? Who the hell has snake summons? Wasn't that traitor from the Sannin the only one with the contract? Of course, moments later Kiba would realize exactly who had snake summons. And he would follow the scent of his friends as he dashed to help them fight a legend. Sasuke was hiding behind a tree, sweating and feeling some severe eye strain. Activating his matured Sharingan had made an odd, possibly orgasmic moan come from the kunoichi, and had snapped him out of the odd death visions. He had a hand clamped over Sakura's mouth to keep her from giving away their position. Until she bit his hand, anyway. What dash behind you, Sasuke-kun? Sasuke turned and saw a giant snake slithering towards them. Right hun, John. A spear of lightning formed in Sasuke's hands, before he threw it at the approaching snake. It made a painful keening sound before falling, the kusanine rising from its back. Kukuku, nice jutsu Sasuke-kun. If you hit me, it might have stung a little bit. Sasuke backed away in fear, unable to face such an overwhelming opponent. Getsuga. A whirling dervish of clawed death flew through the air, nearly striking the opponent from behind, but she bent at an odd angle to avoid the blow. Guys, we have to run, this chick is really Orochimaru in disguise. Sasuke and Sakura were broken from their stupor when they heard Kiba's words. Baka. Orochimaru is a guy. Sakura would probably show off her superior memorization skills until the day she died. Ever heard of hench? Besides, this person is using snakes against us, and Orochimaru was the only person to have that contract. The pale man shifted into his original form. His features now recognizable by all the genin present. Perhaps you know me in this shape? Indeed, I am Densetsu no Sannin no Orochimaru. Give yourself to me, Sasuke, I have a present for you. Kiba puked much as Sasuke had when Orochimaru made his offer. Only more now that it was a guy and Kiba didn't have any of those leanings. This blatant refusal offended Orochimaru's sensibilities. He was famous, powerful, and immortal, damn it, no one refused him. His tongue launched from his mouth and grabbed Kiba around the neck, slamming him repeatedly into the surrounding trees and tossing him to the ground. Sasuke launched one of his best jutsu in desperation to injure this opponent. He threw a handful of shuriken from each arm, all sailing past Orochimaru on each side, before they wrapped around him and bound him to a tree. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu. The wires in Sasuke's mouth tied to his shuriken caught flame, a raging inferno burning down the lines until they reached Orochimaru. The smell of roasted flesh assailed Sasuke's nose, and he cancelled the technique. The burnt-out husk that had once been Orochimaru shivered, pale, unblemished hands coming from its now gaping mouth. The rest of Orochimaru pulled itself from the corpse it was in, fully clothed and unharmed in any way. Kukukuku, now that you're all out of chakra, I have my opening. Close your eyes, Sasuke, I'm going to give you your present. His head and neck shot forward, Sasuke too tired to dodge. A burning pain came from his shoulder and white light flashed in his eyes as Orochimaru sank his teeth in, only pulling away as a small black mark of 3 tomo appeared on Sasuke's shoulder. Seek me out, Sasuke-kun, and I'll give you more power, everything you need to end Itachi. The snake Sannin sped away, leaving a traumatized Sakura to drag her 2 teammates to somewhere safe. She just hoped her day wouldn't get any worse. As it turned out, Naruto's team was the first to arrive, beating the Suna siblings by about 3 minutes. He had an odd feeling that he had missed something important, but ignored it in favor of celebrating setting a new record for getting through the second exam. Anko arrived at the tower, holding her shoulder and limping in pain later on. She had left before he had arrived to check something in the forest, and the look of utter rage on her face kept everyone away from her. She walked into the office at the top of the tower, and moments later, the Hokage and his ANBU team arrived. What happened, Anko? A Chunin told me that there was evidence of Orochimaru. She spit at his name, willing herself to talk through the reignited pain. I tried to fight him, but I'm still not good enough. He beat me easily, then told me that he marked Sasuke. He said that if we halt the Chunin exams, he will strike again. It took all of Anko's self-restraint not to growl every time she said him. She knew that her report couldn't show more of her anger. Very well, when Sasuke reaches the tower, Kakashi will seal his mark. We will defeat him, Anko, don't lose hope. She let out a pained laugh, losing hope of seeing that man dead would be the death of her, and she wasn't in a rush to see the Shinigami anytime soon. Now, while I'm here, why don't we have a chat about your treatment of Kurenai and Naruto? The pleasant voice and phrasing made it a question, but the look in his eyes was enough to make Anko pause. She would have denied in deference to her injuries, but right now the Sandaime was in no mood for flippancy. A groan escaped her, today was just begging to get worse. Team 7, 10, and the team from Oto all arrived on the last day, barely qualifying for a pass. Kabuto's team had also arrived that day, several hours earlier. With the time limit reached, all genin that had completed the exam were brought to the main floor of the tower. When they had all been assembled, the Hokage arrived to give a speech. Now that you have come this far, it is time to reveal the true purpose of the Chunin exams. It does qualify one to become a Chunin, but there is much more than that. My sensei, the Nidaime, was the one who designed the first Chunin exams, thus like the ANBU, Hunter Academy, and the former military police, he was the one responsible for its conception. It was intended to be, and to an extent still is, a replacement for war. He paused to view the looks on the faces of the genin, many of whom were completely shocked. Yes, a replacement for war designed as a somewhat less than friendly competition. The more genin that do well in the exams and make Chunin, the more power, prestige, and missions are allotted to the victor. The exams exist to bring differing nations together as much as a show of power, which is why Kage from other villages are invited to view the finals. As are the daimyo of most countries. A short series of coughs and a voice that sounded sore interrupted the speech at this point, a Konoha jounin coming forward. Hokage-sama, I believe that I, Gekko Heiate, should continue this explanation. A nod was sent to the man as the Hokage walked to his seat, keeping his eyes on the genin. I said my name to the Hokage, so you know who I am. I will proctor the finals, but first, too many people passed the second exam, so there will be a chance for anyone not feeling ready to give up. Kabuto raised his hand, looking rather pale. I, Yakushi Kabuto, forfeit. I was bitten by one of the leeches, and only just managed to free myself. Heiate acknowledged, while the Sandaime and a few of the jounin looked at the boy questioningly. If there is no one else, then a preliminary will be held to see who can fight in the final. Bouts will be randomly chosen by the big board on the far wall, so be ready at all times. The large board flashed through a series of names, before stopping on a pair that made one of those chosen grin and the other pale. Abumizaku vs Haruno Sakura, competitors to the floor. Naruto looked down from the second level that the teams were staying on, wondering just what made Sakura scared of this man. Competitors, get ready. Hajime. Sakura threw a brace of kunai and jumped away to the side while Zaku pointed his left arm and fired a blast of air, his right arm in a sling. The kunai were blasted away, Sakura desperate to pull out a win and show that she wasn't the worthless girl they saw her as. She went through a set of hand signs and threw more shuriken, needing to keep him occupied a few moments for her technique to work. He started standing stock still a few seconds later, her genjutsu taking effect. She walked to his position in the center of the field, and just as she turned to announce her success to the proctor, he broke her technique and leveled both arms at her from just a few inches away. Zanku Kyohua. Massive air pressure launched straight into the thin girl, cutting her body badly and throwing her at great speed into the wall. She laid limply with blood pouring from her wounds as the medics came, Zaku having been declared the winner by an irate Hayate. She is gone, Hokage-sama. There is nothing that we can do. All of the Konoha genin stared in shock, while Kiba and even Sasuke launched deadly glares at the smirking bastard that killed their teammate. Only Kakashi's glare was worse somehow, even with his face covered and Sharingan hidden, the killing intent was enough that some of the genin nearly collapsed. Zaku actually did. Ino was the worst affected by the news, tears streaming down her face in despair. She had only just managed to start repairing her friendship to see her best friend die in front of her. Zaku's female teammate Kin looked upset with the display. She knew he didn't have to kill her, but did anyway just for fun. Hinata had turned away while Kurenai held her shoulder reassuringly, face pale in anger. Sasuke moved from glaring to plotting, a sinister group of thoughts forming in his head. Just wait, you smug son of a bitch, I'll kill you in the finals. No one hurts my friends, no matter who they are. There was an intermission while Sakura's body was removed and the blood cleaned off the field. Kakashi stood by Kiba and Sasuke, barely holding them back from returning the favor. The very thought of going to Orochimaru for power had turned from unsatisfactory to ignored in Sasuke's head. In his mind, Zaku only killed Sakura because of Orochimaru, and as such Orochimaru was the one that killed her. Itachi could take Orochimaru, but he was an unstable sociopath. His reasons for killing the clan made no sense. If he wanted a challenge to test his skills, there were the Sandaime, Kakashi, Sannin no Jiraiya occasionally, and a number of other high-ranking ninja in the village. That made Itachi's reasoning suspect even more than his dislike for violence did. Maybe he could talk to the Hokage about it, the man was incredibly astute. He left his inner thoughts of vengeance and other dark things, and looked at Kiba, his best friend. Mostly, the two worked together and sometimes trained together, but Sasuke had grudgingly grown respect for his ally, even if he was still the stronger between them. Kakashi relaxed his grip on his remaining genin, cursing himself for failing yet another comrade. If he had waited, she might not have died. If he had taught her not to show mercy to opponents, that spiky-haired asswipe would be the one whose blood covered the ground. Maybe if he had taken training the team more seriously from the get-go, she would have simply overpowered him. Each death from someone close to him brought Kakashi 1,000 more regrets, and even more time at the memorial stone. The rest of the genin, save Ino, had more or less recovered from the shock of seeing their classmate die. For the foreign genin, it didn't affect them much. For those from Konoha, it had been the first comrade any of them save the conscious members of Teams 7 and 8 had seen die. Zabuza had died victorious while suffering from numerous injuries after causing pain to those that saw his death. Sakura was someone they knew from childhood, and died thinking she'd won, nearly blasted apart from behind. The grace period following the death of Genin Haruno is over. Next opponents, Sabaku no Gaara vs Dosu. Combatants to the floor. A bloodthirsty grin was alight on Gaara's face, Sakura's death having awoken Shikaku from one of its rare naps. Dosu eyed Gaara warily, unsure what to expect in this battle. Hopefully, one swing from his melody arm would be enough to put down the creepy genin. Ready? Hajime. Dosu ran straight at Gaara, swinging his arm at his opponent's head. Gaara stayed completely still, no fear in his features. Just before the blow would connect, a tendril of sand shot from the gourd on Gaara's back and grasped Dosu's arm. He tried to pull free, but couldn't overpower or outmaneuver the sand grasping his arm. Just as he opened his mouth to forfeit, more sand swallowed up the rest of his body, his screams muffled by the material wrapping his face. The grin on Gaara's face widened as he raised his right arm slowly, savoring the last few moments of his prey. His hand closed, his loyal sand mimicking the motion and crushing Dosu with a shower of gore. This time no one was all that surprised with another death. Most people expected the crazy-ass kid that whispered to himself about blood and grinned like a madman to kill people. Still creeped people out, but the shock and feelings of loss weren't present. Winner, Sabaku no Gaara. Someone please clean up what's left of Dosu. Everyone gave Gaara a wide berth when he came up the stairs, not wanting to be turned into sand smoothies like Dosu. The board had no concern for how the people gathered felt, however, and came up with 2 new names. Hyuga Niji, Rock Lee, report to the arena floor. Lee was on the floor by the time the proctor had enunciated the U in Hyuga. Niji walked far more sedately to his place, not even acknowledging Tenten and Hinata when they wished him luck. While Guy looked torn on who to cheer for, Naruto easily had a favorite among his father's students. Go Lee! Explode with the passion of youth. Guy looked at Naruto proudly, as Naruto felt his head for the presence of symbiote caterpillars, worried about that sudden outburst. Kurenai looked rather pale when Guy stopped admiring his son's youth to glare at her, but still put a hand on Naruto's shoulder to calm him down. Yash! I will finally show all of my youth to Neji-kun, and ultimately prove that hard work is superior to natural talent. For the dreams of youth. With that inappropriately timed Queen reference, Neji made it to the arena, glaring disdainfully at Naruto for riling Lee up even more. You guys are more than ready, Hajime. Surrender, you are no match for me. Fate has decreed for me to be powerful, and you weak. So give up, failure, and let a real match commence. Guy had sat through Neji's speeches a number of times, watching Lee get depressed for a few seconds until he fired back up. This was one speech too many, one step too far. Lee. I give you permission to do whatever you must to prove to Neji just how strong you are. Lee gave a teeth-pinging smile and took his stance, launching at Neji less than a second later with a cry of Konoha Senpu. Neji dodged the first kick and deflected the second, tapping one of the tenketsu on Lee's leg as he did so. Lee continued unfazed, launching a series of quick jabs, finishing with an axe kick that would have floored Neji had it connected. Neji had been steadily doing damage to Lee's arms while deflecting his jabs, building up the pain and wear on his opponent until he shouldn't have been able to lift his arms. Lee was a genius of hard work though, also known as a genius of punching things long past the point where you should be exhausted. More blows came, quick kicks and heavy haymakers. Neji had formed a pattern, deflect the fast strikes while doing tenketsu damage, and dodge the heavy strikes that would break his fingers should he attempt to stop or deflect them. Lee backflipped away from Neji, his arms shaking from the number of times he had been hit. Neji stood and watched as Lee pulled up his leg warmers and released the weights attached to his legs. They struck the ground with an incredible crash, being dropped from only 3 feet up, and they formed a crater. Yash! Let us commence once more in our battle of eternal rivalry, Neji-kun. The genin in the stand looked in shock at the weight Lee had on him, before they looked at Naruto, wondering if he did something similar. Only his father, teammates, Kurenai, and Kakashi knew that he instead used resistance seals to generate the same effect, only a more balanced version. Neji activated his Byakugan, knowing that with Lee's speed it was the only thing that would give him time to react. Lee dashed at Neji, zigging and zagging to make his target unclear. Neji managed to narrowly deflect the backhand Lee threw at his head, striking his opponent's wrist as he did so. The strikes to Lee's legs and the Byakugan would ensure that Neji still held the advantage in this fight, and he had just the technique to end it. When Lee launched another axe kick, Neji took the small window provided to set himself in a slightly altered stance from the typical Juken one. You are within range of my divination. Hack Rokujuin Sho. Neji's speed seemed to become equal or even faster than Lee's for a few brief seconds, as he called out his attack. 2 palms, 4 palms, 8 palms, 16 palms, 32 palms. Hack Rokujuin Sho. Lee fell onto his back, only just hanging on to consciousness. Call the match, Proctor, there is no getting up from that. Hey looked at Lee, and just as he readied to name Neji the victor, he saw Lee stand. No, I will not lose again. I will prove that my hard work has surpassed your natural talent, that anyone can be great if they want it bad enough, that I still can use my flames of youth. Lee went into a horse stance, knees bent with feet shoulder-width apart, arms angled with fists just above his waist. Kaimon, Kai. Human, Kai. Simon, Kai. Shuman, Kai. Tommen, Kai. Lee's skin turned red, his eyes going completely white. Veins bulged across his forehead, and his chakra skyrocketed from its usual point to being a match for Kakashi. Neji deactivated his Byakugan as the flaring chakra threatened to blind him if he kept using it. Lee disappeared from view, as Neji was thrown backwards, then upwards, then no one could even tell as he just kept getting banged around at high speeds that only the Hokage, Guy, Kakashi, and Sasuke with his Sharingan could follow. Lee's form reappeared long enough to send Neji into the arena floor with a hammer fist, the Hyuga prodigy obviously unconscious. Lee stood next to Neji's body for a few seconds, before dropping to one knee, his visage returning to normal as the Hashman faded. Winner, Rock Lee. Return to the upper level as the medics come treat your opponent. Lee nodded and returned to the rest of his team, getting a congratulations from Guy and Naruto for his impressive victory over his rival. This led to Guy declaring that he, Lee, and Naruto must engage in a group hug, where Kurenai would find inspiration for a Jinjutsu most evil. The three combined were hugging during an ocean sunset, the Hokage monument and a rainbow flanking the three. The moment was so absolutely terrifying that even Shikaku demanded Gaara turn his head and stop looking, only to be amazed as a field of shooting stars had appeared behind everyone. Mirror images of the three hugging underneath the display. Hiruzen and Kakashi had both seen this coming, and had closed their eyes in time to avoid the technique, while poor Sasuke still had his Sharingan active. Doomed to have a perfectly clear recollection of this moment for the rest of his life. Maybe he would just use a suicide technique on Orochimaru, then he could have vengeance for the most recent death close to him and never have to think of this again. Hayate was so entranced by the spectacle he didn't notice that his cough had stopped, even the bacteria in his lungs thoroughly frightened by the display. The moment the hug broke, Hayate looked at the board and announced the next competitors, hoping that Yugao hadn't been cursed to be one of the ANBU present. Next match, Tsuchi-kin vs Akato Yoroi. To your places. Kin weathered Sasuke's glare for her teammates' actions, wishing the moron had held back enough to not kill the poor girl. She didn't even want to be here, she just didn't have a choice. There was a way to take advantage though, she had made a plan to be able to speak with the Hokage by leaving a note in the pocket of the blonde with the long overcoat. He seemed very aware, and would hopefully notice quickly enough to get her an audience. The Hokage obviously knew the kid to some degree, as his eyes had been closed before the freaky scene change the world went through. Ready? Hajime. Kin took no chances, her freedom from Orochimaru and the sound requiring her to win this match. She seemed in luck as her opponent ran straight at her, marking him as close range. She threw some Makabishi down to buy time and build distance, before throwing Senbon at and around her opponent. Akato laughed, deflecting the Senbon that came straight at him, and ignoring the others. He heard small chiming sounds, noticing bells attached to about half of the Senbon that Kin had thrown. Petty trick, trying to get me to hear the bells and ignore the Senbon that don't have them. It won't work on someone like me. Kin grinned as her arrogant foe spoke, knowing that she had him exactly where she needed him. All sense of balance faded from Yoroi, sending him to his knees. The ringing had built to a cacophony that was splitting his head. There were 5 Kins facing him now, all pulling more Senbon up to finish the fight. 2 struck him in pressure points on his neck, rendering a state of false death. He is alive, Proctor, but it will be a few hours before he can move. Hayate nodded, glad that at least one of these Otonin wasn't some form of freak. Winner, Tsuchi-kin. Return to the upper level. Naruto noticed a slight pull on his jacket as she passed him, her ignoring him as he faced her. In his pocket was a short note, it read, "The fire's shadow needs to hear the music about a snake, it'll make his ears ring." Naruto of course understood immediately, and he caught the Hokage's eye by making his teeth flash. When Guy had told him it worked the same way that the youthful scene change did, Naruto had practiced until he could do the same. The Sandaime nodded, before looking at the board as the next 2 fighters were announced. Sabaku no Kankuro vs Mado Naruto, begin once you reach the floor. Naruto had hopped down quickly, wondering if he was good enough to beat the boy without touching him. He didn't want to get that lipstick on his hands. A smile lit on his face, his secret weapon might just come out this time. Now I'm gonna kick your ass, like I should have last time, blondie. Naruto just tilted his head and made his thinking face, most the women in the room holding back all wows of cuteness. Isn't that girl on your team blonde too? Is the reason she's mad all the time because you steal her lipstick and rub it on your face? Temari wanted to laugh at the insult to the dumber of her brothers, but felt like she was being made fun of too. Kankuro growled, foregoing his original plan and sending his puppet out of its fake Kankuro shell at Naruto. You can't beat a puppet master from Suna, no matter how skilled you are. Naruto punched the puppet and it shattered, only for its pieces to all fly after him anyway. This might be harder than I thought. Naruto noticed a number of pieces guarding the way he would need to take to get close to the actual opponent, and there were more Makabishi and poison Senbon as well. If I want to finish this fast, I guess I'll use it, not like I won't have more in the finals. Naruto stopped and turned to face the pieces attacking him. Chains that flickered with an odd light flew from his back, not affecting his clothes, but swatting all the weapons away from him. Kankuro was shocked, he'd never heard of anyone that could manifest ethereal objects from their chakra. What the hell is Naruto doing? Where did those chains come from? Guy turned to answer Ino's question, most likely about how Naruto had found a way to solidify the flames of youth. But Kurenai beat him to the punch with the actual explanation of the technique. Naruto-kun has been working on mastering this technique for quite a while, his mother's clan could do this with varying levels of skill. Wait, are you saying that Naruto has a clan? Why was he an orphan then? Wouldn't one of them adopt him? Kakashi answered this time. Kurenai, too busy suffering Guy's ability to make his eyebrows glare at someone since she had openly called Naruto Kun. Naruto, much like Sasuke, is the last of his clan known to be alive. The time in between the second and third Shinobi Wars featured the three-pronged attack that destroyed Uzushiogakure, home of the Uzumaki clan, Naruto's ancestors. He took Guy's last name when he was adopted because he didn't know anything about his clan. Sasuke was more surprised than the rest of those present. While he had never hated Naruto, or disliked him more than anyone else due to his shielding abilities from the terrible fangirls, he had never thought that Naruto was the child of a dying clan. Maybe Naruto would help him with Itachi and Orochimaru, curse their eyes. Speaking of eyes, his had been sore ever since he had calmed down from Sakura's death. No matter how annoying she had once been, she had become far better, training seriously and even helping him with his Sharingan training. Surrender footy pajamas, or get whipped with my chains. Kankuro sneered and kept up his chakra threads, controlling the individual pieces of his puppet once more. Naruto proceeded to slash them out of the air and repeatedly whip his opponent. Anko whistled at Kurenai, grinning widely at the blush that formed on her friend's face. She had promised to tone down the teasing, but had never said she would quit it. Winner, Mato Naruto. Go upstairs, same as everyone else. Naruto smiled and went back to his team, hoping that they would make the finals too. He noticed that his dad was glaring at Kurenai-sensei, but he couldn't imagine why. There were only 4 fights left anyway, wouldn't be too much longer. Yamanaka Ino vs Uchiha Sasuke, competitors, Hai got that far before Ino surrendered, certain that she couldn't beat Sasuke. Her feelings and stress from losing her best friend had nothing to do with it, she just knew that she had no chance against Sasuke in terms of combat ability. Maybe she could get lucky and force surrender through her Shintenshin no Jutsu, but Sasuke outclassed her physically and could hypnotize her with eye contact faster than she could take his body. Hyuga Hinata vs Tsurugi Misumi. Same instructions I've been giving all day. Hinata went downstairs as her teammates and sensei wished her luck, Misumi taking position in the arena floor. The expected shout came and battle was on once again. Misumi stretching his arms and wrapping them around Hinata, his head and neck doing the same. Give up, or I'll snap your neck. Hinata smiled, before unleashing something she had been trying ever since she learned her element. When she had asked Naruto to help her taijutsu, he had. But he had also told her a story about the Yondaime Raikage, who used elemental power to enhance taijutsu. He happened to have right ton, same as Hinata. While incomplete, she had more than enough practice to replicate what Kakashi had done in his first tangle with Zabuza. Crackling blue-white energy leapt to life around Hinata, Misumi screaming in pain as he was electrocuted. Hinata stopped when he fell unconscious, not wanting to kill anyone, a fellow Konoha genin even less. Hayate declared her the winner and sent her off, glad that the fights were getting shorter. The less time spent proctoring, the more with Yugao. Great job, Hinata-chan. I see you've been working on some secret weapons too. She smiled while Shino walked down to engage his opponent, Kiba. A few months ago, Naruto would have said that Kiba didn't even stand a chance. Now, he would say that Kiba stood about half a chance. While they had both gotten much stronger, Shino was the smarter and calmer, giving him an advantage. Kiba had already given Akamaru a food pill, activating his Jujin Bunshin and Shikyaku no Jutsu before the match started. It was odd that doing so was allowed, but due to it not targeting the foe directly, there was no rule against using them pre-fight. Getsuga. Both Kibas launched at Shino, but the technique didn't do what anyone expected. Rather than the straightforward charge that Shino had expected, the two began weaving a complex path through the air, flying around him and not at him. The two Kibas stopped, a confident smirk on their faces. One of them pulled his hands back and lit his fingers with chakra, a web of ninja wire, pulled taut. The Shino that should have been wrapped in the wire burst apart into insects, a mushy bunshin. Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu. A group of fireballs struck the two Kibas, one of which turned back into Akamaru. A rather poetic attempt at victory, Kiba. Why? You sought to use a web to catch the bug, but instead only caught yourself. Kiba wasn't done yet, and detached the wires from his fingers, seeking to finish the fight one-on-one. Tsuga. He took off spinning once more, but Shino's bugs had reformed from the scattered clone, and he was drained in a few moments. Shino walked up to his team, while Tenten and Temari went down, the last two competitors. Hayate didn't even need to say anything this time, just wave his hand and cough as the genin readied themselves for battle. He wondered absently why the ninja suffering from a recent poisoning was being asked to talk and shout as his job, but figured it was better than fieldwork. When the last moon appears, you will disappear. Tenten sweat dropped at the poor threat, but smirked and threw a couple dozen shuriken at Temari, who waved her fan and knocked them all away. Tenten's response was to throw a few hundred shuriken, but they too were deflected. It was right about then that she wished she had taken Gai-sensei on his offer for more taijutsu training. I was saving this for the finals, but I guess that if I don't make there is no reason to hide it. Tenten took 2 scrolls from the holsters on her waist, setting them upon the ground. You may be able to stop most of them, but I doubt you can get them all. Sushoryu. Tenten leapt into the air, unraveling the scrolls as she did. The next thing the audience saw, Tenten had what seemed to be about 1,000 weapons surrounding her, all of which were thrown at Temari at high speed. It probably would have worked against someone that needed hand seals for futon, but Temari had a big-ass fan. At the end of the barrage, she was untouched and Tenten was out of weapons. Mostly. Looks like I could stop them all, bye. Temari swung her fan once more, sending a giant gust of sharp wind at Tenten, partially shredding her shirt and lifting her into the air. As the child of a Kage, Temari was raised with excellent manners, and she gently caught her opponent as she fell from the sky. Even held her bridal style as she was announced the victor. Then set her down gently upstairs with her sensei as she went back down as a winner. Anko walked forward with a box as the sandame rose from his seat. Congratulations, I ask all of you to take a piece of paper from Jounin Midarashi's box. The numbers will be paired up randomly, so don't be surprised if you fight a teammate. Nara Shikamaru received a bye round for the preliminaries, but will still be in the finals. All the winners, including Sasuke and Shikamaru, stood in a line to await Anko and her box. Naruto was once again played the part of her newest toy as she covered the hole in the box with her cleavage, daring him to reach in. A glare from Kurenai in the stands was enough to get her to stop, but Kurenai knew that she would be getting teased extra hard to compensate. In the end, Height wrote down the matches in order. Match 1, Uchiha Sasuke vs Ibumizaku. Match 2, Nara Shikamaru vs Sabaku no Temari. Match 3, Hyuga Hinata vs Aburame Shino. Match 4, Mato Naruto vs Kintsuchi. Match 5, Sabaku no Gaara vs Rock Lee. Finals will be held 1 month from tomorrow. The second phase of the Chunin exams is finished, all ninja dismissed, save Mato Naruto and Yuhi Kurenai. All those remaining left, while Naruto wondered why Kurenai was required to stay as well. I know you wanted to speak with me about something, Naruto, but first I need to talk to the both of you. Due to concerns about your relationship brought forth by Jounin Gai and Jounin Hitaki, there is to be no contact between you for the month break that precedes finals. If this restraint is broken, Naruto will be cut from finals and will be moved on to a separate team. Both were shocked, they hadn't expected to be cut off from each other without any actual reason. Kurenai knew that the Hokage didn't trust her, but to Naruto this came from out of left field. You are dismissed, Jounin Yuhi. Now Naruto, what did you need to see me about? Naruto considered not answering since his sensei was pulled from him right before the training for finals could commence. But relented and gave the Hokage the note. Interesting. ANBU, fetch Mitsuchi-kin and be like a true ninja about it. A familiar mask appeared briefly, before vanishing with a bow. What do you mean, like a true ninja, GG? Hiruzen let out a smile, he didn't see his favorite genin as much as he would have liked. Fast and silent, Naruto. I don't need to let any snakes into my garden. Naruto didn't get what the old man was saying, but shrugged and left to find someone that could help him train. Maybe Jiraiya had answered that letter he sent. This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.